Hi, everybody. This is Tracy Malone. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, please. We are going to talk about narcissistic and divorce, and my channel is dedicated to helping people understand divorcing a narcissist as well as family of origin narcissists. Today, however, we are going to speak with Olivia Summerhill. She is a financial professional that helps women, in particular, is her practice, who are going through a high net worth divorce. And it's complicated. And we're going to talk about how we get through these situations. How do we regulate ourselves? How do we protect ourselves? Are we entitled to standard of living? And how do we find the money? So many little questions we're going to be talking to her about. So let's go meet Olivia and we'll get started trying to help you through these little pieces of the divorce story. Welcome, Olivia. I am so grateful that you are here. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm Olivia Summerhill. Hello. I am a divorce financial consultant, and I work with women who want to have an equal playing field in divorce. So I help women maintain their lifestyle during and post divorce. And if you have affluence and you've never dealt with the finances and your relationship, and now all of a sudden you're about to get divorced, as a stay at home mother, what do? You might be terrified. That's where I come into play and really help alleviate those anxiety emotions as a consultant, coach, financial professional, and advocate.
Wow, this is why I have you here. You've got such an array of things that you help people with, and I
Mhm.
think that's important for people to understand that when you have some assets in the family bucket and you are unaware of what's there, so many people panic. They're like, "I'm not entitled to it. I'm scared. I don't get anything. He told me I was a stay-at-home mom. It's not mine." How do you handle those kind of people?
We breathe. That's the first thing. We take some deep breaths because we're about to talk about what 97% of Americans have is money over anxiety. And if we're about to dump on top of that divorce, I mean, that is extremely anxiety ridden. So we take some deep breaths and we know, just like the work you do, that everything will be okay if you have the right resources, the right team around you, and you're getting the right information, right? So, what I like to do at the very beginning is, like you just said, a lot of those things are said to the majority of women when they're coming into divorce, and men, of course. I specifically work with women, so sorry, I'm going to be a little sexist here, but this applies to everyone. Is what if your significant other, soon to be ex, is saying, well, I'm the one who worked for the last 20 years and you stayed at home. So this is my retirement. You get nothing. All of those threats are going to be taken into consideration. And those are valid that you feel fear, but that is not going to be the way the divorce is going to go, where those threats are going to come real. So taking a step back, breathing, and knowing that A, you're not alone, other people have felt this, and B, those threats can come every day, but they're not going to come true as long as, again, you have that team or you have those knowledge based people to help you through the process.
Yes. And that what you're saying is such a valid point because the fear inside people just
Mhm.
completely locks them up. And specifically about that financial part, and they feel hopeless. They don't know. They're fearful. What will happen? And I don't think I have this right. And they don't even know how they're going to pay for the lawyer in many cases because they've been shut out. So it's a quite a trapped place for them to be, regardless of the fact that they live in a beautiful home and have nice things. They were told they're not entitled to them, and that puts the fear into them.
I have clients who have hundreds of millions of dollars who are still unable to know if they can pay for services. So it doesn't even matter where your wealth range is. And just like you're saying, even if you have beautiful homes or you have all that lifestyle that people assume you're well off, or you don't, either way, it is a scary, scary topic. And that's what I help deal with on a day to day basis.
Hooray for you. Tonight I'm going out for a dinner with some very old friends that were part of my original support group. And they're my core friends now. I just love these women so much. And one of them, during their 29-year marriage, was not allowed to buy more than $50 in groceries for the family. And if she bought it, she was sent back to return it. And she was led to believe they had no money. And in the divorce, realized they were worth millions and millions. And he had hidden it from her with those little, like, no, we can't afford that. And when their own daughter wanted to go to community college for $3,000 a year, he said, no, we can't afford it. And they were multi-millionaires, and she had no idea. So, just demystifying the truth about you have rights was enlightening for her, right? Still, the battle was long and hard, and it cost her $1 million, but she got through it, and she's safe.
And I love that you brought this story up, and I'm so glad you're still friends with these people and they're your closest, because that time period, you need those trusted friends, and they do become even closer through the hardest times of your life. Let me just ask, because this is also the work I do, is I'm in collaborative and mediation, and I really believe in not spending millions on divorce if you can avoid the big litigating attorneys. I love attorneys, they have a purpose, absolutely. But if you can really level or lower emotions, I wonder if that significant other, her soon-to-be ex-spouse who was saying they had nothing, I bet you, and I don't know the answer, but I'm betting he actually believed that they did not have enough, because if we went back to his childhood and his patterns and behaviors, I'm guessing someone in his relationship, probably one of his parents, said the same mentality to him. And so he's fearful of letting go of anything he has. Yes, that's financial abuse, saying you can't spend more than anything and you can't do this, or not being open. So I am all for her side, but I also take into consideration the empathy that we almost have to kind of dig out for the other side to see, like, why is he acting that way? What's behind that? Where are those patterns coming from, and why is he going that route? Some people we can't help, and that's not our reason for helping one party, and we're not trying to save the other. But I want to save on as much as we can with lawyers, and as much as we can with fighting. And I wonder what his story is. I'm just curious.
So when you go through, when you're digging for someone's, say, backstory like this, how does that help us not go to court? If we find
Great question.
Is sort of like, wounded from childhood, which 99% of all narcissists are. But if we find this stuff out, how does it help us not go to court? Because a narcissist is litigious. They
want to win.
We had her put in jail, like false allegations, all kinds of crazy. So how does it help us?
We take deep breath again, and because this is topics that are so powerfully disruptive to our systems on the inside typically. And what it does is, let's just pretend I was working with her during the time period of the beginning of a divorce, and he's saying she is abusive to the children and she needs to go to jail. Let's just say that's the situation. And he's still not allowing anyone to know what the finances are at all. And so at that point, obviously we need to get from A to B. So we need to understand your finances. So that's priority number one, is what are your expenses? What are your values going through this divorce process? We need to understand who you are, because your identity has been crushed and taken away from you. So getting to know her, getting to know the expenses that actually post-divorce will help her succeed. And also during the negotiation strategies, what does she need to live off of? What is she going to be asking for? But during that, all of this process, getting from the very A to B is, okay, so he is never going to change. We're not going to change him, but we need to make him feel like he's winning. Okay, what are his triggers? Why are those his triggers? How can we avoid those triggers? And those triggers usually come from childhood. So I'm a certified money coach, and a lot of the work I do with women can be applied to the men, and just almost in a, I don't want to say manipulative way, but it kind of is in a, let's look at it from his standpoint. Let's lower our emotions. Let's see it for what it is. He's not going to change. We're not going to win from a narcissist, especially. And he needs to feel like he's winning. So, how can we go about the negotiation strategies knowing that you're going to be okay, but that we need him to win? So, during this, we know your values. And I know this is a long winded answer, but how can we make him feel like he's winning, not trigger him, and understand that his childhood is still playing a part in today's role? And how can we almost avoid those triggers that might be coming up from patterns and behaviors? And how can we not fuel the fire with the finances? And so some of the ways that we do that is not sending certain things his way via text or email or calling, not doing things that might trigger him. And that's different for everyone. Maybe it's letting him win in certain ways with the finances, and in other ways he doesn't realize that you're actually benefiting. So all the strategies that I do and the tools that I pull from are to not have her say, oh gosh, I'm so sorry that he did have that childhood and I feel so bad for him. No, that's not her job, is to empathize. But my job as the neutral or the person who's her advocate is to at least see where we can lower his emotions with the money, because money is everything in divorce. So hopefully that was a helpful answer and a very long-winded one as well.
It was a perfect answer, because it's very much what I teach as well, not necessarily on the money end, but to learn their triggers, to understand, not to poke the bear, and do it the same way you need to do it, but maybe go a back door about it so it doesn't put them on hyper vigilant alert, which is reactive. Narcissists are very wounded from divorce. They are very fragile. So it just takes a feather of you want my what? And the whole thing gets out of control. So learning, and it's a pathetic thing to have people do, because they're in trauma. So it's hard to say, well, let's go study and just figure out what his triggers are, her triggers are. In my case, it could be either, right? But it is so much important, because if we cross that line and poke the bear, as I say, we are not going to get anything that we want, and we will end up in court, and it will be very litigious because they like to fight in court. So no matter what we're doing, I think if we understand those principles, I have a book on my shelf that I recommend every single day that talks to this, about how to talk to them to not trigger them, how to soothe their baby egos so that they can end up being, a less aggravated kind of monster, as you would potentially see. If you poke the bear, it's not pretty. So what other strategies do you have that can help women?
I would say not procrastinating and not being paralyzed is the hardest thing at the very beginning of the divorce process. But strategy number one is get the right information. So listen to your podcast, right? Have the if you can't afford to talk to someone, or like a coach or someone who's going to help with the finances, or a lawyer or mediator yet, or a therapist, try to have those resources if you can. And if you can't, reach out to the free resources, and also look online and go to the podcast and read the books. Like, your book is absolutely phenomenal for if you're dealing with a narcissist, and you have to have those resources. I think that everyone can budget for a under $20 book, and I think it's worth it. That is just my recommendation, is start at ground zero. And another recommendation is have that really beautiful resources around you of support groups. So you've even experienced this. Those women or men are going to really be a great resource. And a lot of those groups don't cost anything. And having those friends and family by your side is also a key point, because relationships help everything. Although, the little caveat here, take the friends and family's advice with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they're definitely looking out for the best of what you need, but they might be having their own biases of what they think is best, and from their experience of their divorce is what they think you should do, and that's not always best. So caveat there.
Absolutely. In my situation with clients that are in a narcissistic relationship, a normal divorce advice has absolutely no place in your conversations, because you're getting, oh well, if you just do this, it's like, no, you're at DEFCON 5 and the world is imploding outside the submarine. Take their stuff, thank you very much, but also get the right help. That's why I have a list of like support groups in every state on my website. So they're all free that are out there. They have them for adult narcissist children. They have them for divorce, whatever it is. There's hundreds of them around the country. And my assistant searches once a month to see if there's any new ones and see if anyone disappeared. Try to get them. They're not enough. Like it may be the state of Massachusetts, there might be 5. And that's a whole damn state. That's not enough, right? I tell people to start their own. I knew nothing except that I had just been through a horrific divorce and that I figured out it was a narcissist. So I started my own group and I had no idea. I was like, okay, I brought like handouts and I was like ready. And I'm like, who will come? Who will come to the library little room? And it was crazy. It grew and grew. And I was like, my responsibility grew because I was like, well, I don't want everyone to just come here and bitch. It's not helping us. One's crying because they're hearing someone else's story. How do we heal? And that's how my whole career started, was getting those people together. And it was, at one point we had one in Boulder, Colorado, where the room held 23 people and we were getting yelled at by the library every single time. So we had to have a second one because people were driving 2 hours to come to the group. So I had to have 2 and that room held 40. So I would have 60 to 80 people a month that were just clawing for help and that friendship. Like I said, I'm going out with, I think there's about 10 of us tonight. It's for my birthday, which was yesterday, but we are going out and this is a 7-year friendship. The bond they have, and those girls go out almost every weekend. I'll be out with them 3 times this month because the bond that you find with people that get it is something priceless. You can't get that anywhere else. And while you have your friends, you have your family, I often find the advice that they give to victims of narcissistic abuse divorces very, very wrong. And it puts them in the wrong direction, often makes them feel bad. Like you're doing it wrong and it's not so bad. And don't worry, and all of this really bad advice. So, I think that getting the support is absolutely a key piece. And again, the team, the financial people, the mediators, the lawyers, you need a team, you need coaches to get through it really well, because saving money on a coach versus a lawyer, so many people use their lawyers as therapists and it gets very expensive at $500 an hour. So, just to have someone to bounce ideas off and strategies is going to make a huge thing. I have one more question that I wanted to ask you about, which is people are told that they should be looking for the standard of living that they had before. How does that work? Maintaining the standard of living. I mean, is that a true thing?
Expectations from the very first time that I'm sitting with a client, a potential client or a client, doesn't matter. If it's someone I've known for a while or not, it's going to be very, very difficult, even with an exorbitant amount of wealth, to have the exact same lifestyle. And what I've actually found from clients, and being extremely truthful and honest at the very beginning of the relationship, saying that all that materialistic stuff anyways, and most of the standard of living, maintained lifestyle is going to be the cars, the houses, the watches, the diamonds, the vacations, all wrapped into more of the materialistic stuff. So purses, shoes included in that for women a lot of the times. And almost every single person that I've worked with has said, I would take all of that away. You can take all the materialistic stuff away as long as I have just a steady household with my family, children, whatnot, post-divorce. So the expectation at the very beginning is, let's see what we can do financially and know that things are going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost the clients triggering themselves on a switch in the brain of, that didn't make me happy to have the whatever massive get together and getting all these gift baskets afterwards. And I don't know, there's a ton of different examples, but standard of living, it's going to change, but the expectation is at the very beginning to understand what it is that makes you content and happy and know your values. Because if you know your values and who you want to be, you can drive on that highway a lot better and faster and smoother with your family if you have children post divorce, rather than I have to keep this exact lifestyle. I'm going to latch onto it. I don't know what to do. I'm paralyzed and I don't even want to face it. I want to throw in the towel, all of these different things throughout the divorce process.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, the standard of living being um, the things, the places, the cars, the vacations, the homes, right? And many of your clients, as well as mine, come in and they've got multiple vacation homes, or, you know, a whole array of assets that have to be split up and divvied. But when it comes down to it, the bottom line is, how do you want to feel? Right? Not what do you want to have in your cupboard, in your garage, or in your jewelry box. Those are bonuses if you know, go that direction. I lived a completely different life when I was married, completely different life, and traveled and all kinds of amazing gifts, I call them, even though I hate them. I appreciate what I got from that relationship. But at the same time, I'm much happier now. Those things never made me happy. I thought they did because I was living it and it wasn't my choice. I thought, you know, amazing vacations and things that came were not that I thought it was my life. It never felt like my life. But at the same time, I am so much happier without any of that. And so getting to a point where you're almost managing your expectations on standard of living is what I hear you saying, versus let's go for the jugular and try to take it all, because you know what, that's how we don't poke the bear. They think we're going to ask for it all, but if we go, you know what, that was important to you, you keep the Hampton house, but I'll take these. If you know what their weak points are, and if they want this, then how can we creatively find the equivalent that, okay, I don't get the house on the water, but I have enough that I can live in peace.
And knowing your values will help get you to that peaceful spot without the materialistic standpoint, or without the fear and paralyzation of, if that's a word, being paralyzed. I like it. It sounded fancy, but on what is going to make you happy, and also not trigger the other side. Exactly. We don't want that to happen, and we don't want to poke the bear. And how can we go about that the best? Because that is also what I see a lot of the times, is the other side, which for me is going to be the husband who's been working. In his mind, in financial psychology, he's terrified she's going to try to take everything. And she's going to take all the businesses that he's worked for so many years on. And so we can formulate a strategy and negotiate calmly and really show him. And again, I'm using the heterosexual normative. The clients that I work with are the females. If we can show him that we're not out to poke him and take everything, then it always works out better. So knowing your values is the start.
Yeah, and in the narcissist world, many of your clients, partners, exes, hide money. They lie. They sit there and deny that never happened. I had statements for a Swiss bank account, like, here they are, I've submitted them, that's what we're supposed to do. Oh, what account? No, I never had that. And they just lied on the stand. I was like, what do you mean? I've got statements. They're from last month. Like, where do you mean the $5 million is gone somewhere? Right? The amount of lying that your clients have to listen to, like what I just explained, it just paralyzes you once again in a different direction, because you're like, how can I ever get a fair deal? Is anyone listening? I'm telling you, this is here and nobody cares. How do you help someone in that situation?
Breathe. And then we look at the pros and cons, because I can go back on statements and trace and find things. I'm not a forensic accountant, but those are a whole nother deal of, let's look at options. Let's look to see if maybe I go through certain things like the tax returns and the statements, because I can find most of the red flags quite fast. So that might be a good route. Or we get a forensic accountant involved, but we want to look at the pros and cons, because is a business valuator who can look at all the businesses and what he's hiding in the business, and a forensic accountant who can look back and see all those. Normally, it's the Caymans and Swiss bank accounts, all of those different assets, or crypto. Do we want to get all these other professionals involved? The pros is maybe you're going to get some answers, and you're going to feel that vindictive behavior that he's done for so many years. You're gonna feel some joy after getting the answers. But will that all of a sudden assume that you're going to get those assets?
Mm-hmm.
What if they're spent? I mean, a lot of my clients, even in the billionaire range, a lot of those assets have been calculated into trust funds or some other place where they're hidden. So well done. Even if you know that they're gone, you see the transfers. Do you want to spend potentially, let's just say, 100,000 on a forensic accountant and waste another 6 months, 2 years of your time finding hidden assets? Or do you want to move on and know that, yes, you've probably let go of a lot, but here's the pros as you're moving on, and here's your value system, and your children are doing better? I don't know the answer. Everyone's different, but that's what I go through with clients. Is we breathe, we go through values, we find what we need to find. It's very easy with the certain tools that I use for tax returns and statements, but the other outlying things, well, is it worth getting other professionals involved? And the pros and cons, it's going to be time, and that's usually going to be a long time period. It's going to be money, and it does not guarantee you're going to get anything. They can ignore that too, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, so it's a complex situation.
What do you want to walk away with, right? And I'm not saying that you don't fight for.
Not at all. Yeah.
But the ghosts are very, very hard to track, especially when they're in that higher wealth area, the trust fund and, trust accounts and all kinds of tools that are designed to hide it. It's hard to break into that. And once they're in those things, again, we can find them, we can prove it. But guess what? It's still in a trust and you don't have rights to it. Have a nice day. It's knowing what to chase. And that's where you come in and go, this will be a good route to go. And here's where we want to aim the gun, if you would, to find that one. But let's leave that and see what these others give us as results. And I think people jump to the end of the story so quickly. They don't think integrals along the way to be like, okay, that's one more step. We're closer here. We're closer there, instead of trying to get it all at once.
Having a timeline, just like that car on the highway, we want to know, like, when do we need to get on an off ramp? When do we need to stop at a stoplight? It's nice to have the professionals with you so that you know exactly where you're going, and you don't throw in the towel, you don't miss out on hidden assets, and you don't emotionally exhaust yourself, because you have that support system and the professionals who know exactly what they're doing in the divorce world. So, and they're going to listen to you.
Exactly. So what last minute tips do you have for people that are heading into this?
I like to keep things really simple. So we've gone through a lot today. I don't want to add more tips that are going to be completely out there different. So I would literally keep it simple and say, breathing, like focusing on yourself. What are your values? Understand who your friends are. Understand that you should be keeping that distance through people who aren't listening to you or are saying, oh, he's not that bad or she's not that bad. Keeping the right team as professionals as well, listening to podcasts, reading the right books, gaining knowledge, all of those pieces of information are going to help you through a divorce process, whether you divorce or not. Some people listening today might not be getting a divorce because they can go a different route, but at the very least, this is the tools that they can start with.
Thank you. That's absolutely perfect. I'm just going to add one little thing, is to learn to manage the fear. There's going to be so much fear. And if you don't know how to manage it, it will manage you, and it will put you into the covers and never want to get out of bed because there's so much out there. So if you learn to manage the fear of all of these aspects and breathe and learn to just be like, okay, I'm going to be okay. We'll handle that fear this way. Or what's the truth behind I'll never get anything because I was the stay-at-home mom, right? What's the truth about these things? That eases the fear. When you get the financial advice from someone like yourself, that eases another fear. When you come to me and you coach and we go, oh yeah, this is what we could expect, that eases the fear. Don't worry, everyone does that. It doesn't work, but they're going to try it anyway. Eases a fear, right? When you have people that can help you look at the fears versus go under the covers, fear is crippling. And if, again, we don't manage it, it is going to suck you down to the point where you won't be able to get any paperwork done. You won't be able to get out of your house. You won't be able to cognitively think about what you really want because you're just frozen. So get help for the fear. It's such an important part of this. And if we don't conquer it, it's not pretty.
Get help for the fear. I love that. All of your books have really good quotes that you have written. And I feel like that should be in your next book. Get help for the fear.
Well, I started my divorce book with a whole chapter on managing the fear because that has to come first. There's a lot of scary parts, and knowing that you'll be okay no matter what happens is peace. And while you might not be able to hear it at that moment, in time it does come in, and that peace can come over you when it's all over. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
How can people find you?
I have a podcast, Divorce for Wealthy Women, and I have a website. So if anyone has any questions, resources are on my site as well. And I'm thinking I'm going to add your site because then they can get to those narcissistic resource groups much easier. So if that's okay with you, we might just add that. So thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. Thank you. I hope you guys found that helpful. If you want more information about Olivia, I will put her information below. If you are new to my channel, I hope that you found this helpful. Go listen to some of the other videos and subscribe to my channel, like and share this video if you can, so that we can get it out to YouTube land, that these videos are valuable. What was I going to say there? Again, this is Tracy Malone. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.